A recurring theme throughout Sefer Bereshit is deception. Masks are worn and removed. Family members lie to each other or refrain from transparent dialogue. And often, this deception leads to painful results. Think of the absence of dialogue between Cain and Hevel, the lack of communication between Rivka and Yitzchak regarding their son's blessings, and Yaakov and Lavan's extended rivalry, and ultimately, final confrontation. But when the masks in every case are finally removed, there is an outpouring of emotion, an outpouring of truth, a catharsis which enables a family to collect itself, to develop, and to move forward. In Parashat Vayigash, this cycle and saga of deception through Bereshit reaches a climax and finally comes to a close. Yehuda, who has a history of deceiving others and being the victim of deception, which I will get to in just a little bit, boldly confronts his disguised brother Joseph in Egypt. He pleads with Joseph so that Benjamin will not be imprisoned. It is Yehuda's courage to breach the gap between himself and his disguised brother that convinces Joseph to remove his mask and to reveal his true identity to his shocked brothers. When we see this action of breaching in the first word of the Parsha, Vayigash. Vayigash elav Yehuda, vayomer bi Adoni, yedaber na avdecha davar be'ozne Adoni, ve'al yicharapcha be'avdecha. So Yehuda says, please, my Lord, let me speak, let your servant speak in the ears of my Lord. And please, don't let your anger flare up at your servant. Vayigash does not only mean to approach or to come close. It also means to confront. And when Yehuda confronts Yosef, he does so by speaking in his ear. Be'oznei Adoni, he says. He speaks in a very compelling way. First, by reminding Yosef of the background, then by bringing in the context of what's currently happening both at home for his father and right here in Egypt. And third, he begs, he requests for the release of Benjamin and to take Yehuda in his stead. Rashi says that when Yehuda asks to be heard in his ears, he's asking, may my words actually enter your ear? May this be effective? Perhaps Yehuda knows from his own history that open communication is what will lead to successful results, to the return and safety of Binyamin. So why? What is this history of Yehuda? So earlier in chapter 38 of Genesis, Yehuda failed to be transparent with his daughter-in-law Tamar. After his 2 of 3 sons died from their interaction with Tamar, he told Tamar, go home, go mourn, until my youngest is old enough to marry you. But in that very same verse, he also said to himself, he did not want his youngest to die as well. So as we know, Yehuda does not give his youngest to Tamar, and Tamar years later masks herself and sleeps with Yehuda. But when Yehuda learns that he is the father of Tamar's children, he praises Tamar for her actions and knows that this happened because Yehuda failed to act honestly himself. Yehuda names one of his children Peretz, literally breach, to burst forth. And this represents most literally this son's position at birth, being first to be born, even though his twin was expected first. But perhaps this name, Peretz, foreshadows the action of breaching Yehuda continues to take in life, and the value of speaking up and confronting an issue at hand. One more example of this root Peretz in relationship to the concept of confrontation comes from a verse in Tehillim, acknowledging that if it were not for Moshe, who stood in the breach confronting God to avert God's anger, God would have destroyed Israel along their journey. We read, Vayomer lehashmidam lulei Moshe bechiro amad baperetz lefanav lehashiv chamato mehashchit. The actions of Yehuda and Yosef bring much of the deception of Breshit to a close and demonstrate the value of transparency. This confrontation enables the sons of Jacob to see one another openly and honestly as they move forward to become Bnei Yisrael. And perhaps this birth of a nation is only possible through the actions of openness, breaching the gaps, and confronting one another with transparency. And what, after all, does this title Yisrael represent? So here's one idea. When Yaakov's name becomes Yisrael, Rashi explains, what is the name Yisrael? Rashi says, so, Lo Yaakov. Yaakov will no longer be your name. Lo Yomar Od Shehabrachot Ba'u Lecha Be'akva Uverimiyah. No longer will blessings come to you through deception. Ki im bisrara uvigilui panim. But rather through a sense of authority, rather through a revealed sense, rather in full view. Blessings will come to you when you are open, when you are also perhaps transparent. So I think just at this moment, we can take a moment to say it's probably the natural human tendency to refrain from confrontation often, but may we also learn from Yehuda to connect openly, to be transparent, and may these also continue to be our lessons and our midrashim that we take with us. Shabbat Shalom, all the best, L'chaim Tovim.